Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Rapid Review. As we do every week, we're going to be covering everything that went on this week in the market, get you guys ready to trade for next week. This week proved exactly why it was important. Have a plan, remove emotions, and not get caught up in the daily market chaos. So without further ado, let's get started. All right, so as always, here's your disclaimer. Read through that. This is not financial advice, educational purposes only. You know the deal. All right, market direction, uptrend, power trend, both still intact, both still on, despite how the beginning of the week felt. We finished out the week strong, so everything looking healthy. In terms of distribution days, looking at the S&P, we are now at 7 distribution days. On Tuesday, we lost the July 15th distribution day, so that's no longer up here. But we did gain a distribution day. So we ended up gaining one there, and we also gained one on Wednesday. So that added 2 for the week. Keep in mind, IBD is showing one less distribution day than me. The volume sources were, I guess, a little different, where I showed higher volume on the 15th, where they did not. So I counted it. I erred to the cautious side, giving us 7. IBD did not. I'll talk about my gripe with IBD's data source situation right now. So that's why I erred to the multiple sources that I looked at, which is giving us 7 on the S&P. On the NASDAQ, so the NASDAQ gained a distribution day also on Tuesday. But with that distribution day that was gained, that also activated the July 31st distribution day. So that's where on Tuesday you saw the distribution day jump by 2. So we're currently sitting at 5 distribution days. Going into next week, the big thing, we are going to lose the July 21st distribution day due to 25 trading days since that. So that'll fall off, which is a positive signal. And then other than that, it's going to be really price movement that we're going to need in order to wash out anything here. Does need to be a pretty strong week. As you can see, we basically need over a 2% move on any of these indexes to wash out any more distribution. So high distribution day on the S&P, moderate distribution day on the NASDAQ. Again, this is always a secondary signal for me. Most of it is price action, key levels that I tend to look at, but still something to take note of that we are on the S&P high distribution and moderate distribution on the NASDAQ. All right, so this week, S&P actually finished out the week up 0.26%. NASDAQ was down 0.58%, and the Dow led out the week 1.53%. And that brings us to this year. The S&P is up 9.95%, NASDAQ is up 11.32%, and the Dow is up 7.26%. So NASDAQ still leading out the year. S&P has been starting to close the gap with some of the rotation that's been going on. And the Dow, as always, slow, pokier, kind of moving, so kind of lagging behind the other two, but no surprises there. Appreciate everybody that's in the live stream right now. Feel free to comment. Let me know what you're thinking. If you see something different than me, if you have any questions, and then we will be going over a couple stocks later on. I have a couple from the Discord group that want to go over a couple names. So feel free also at any time, just throw a stock ticker in there. We'll take a look at it for you. All right, current state of the market in terms of the moving averages. So despite that we did break below the 10 and the 21 on both the S&P and the NASDAQ, we did finish out the week above. The NASDAQ's just squeaking out up 0.06% over the 10-day, but we are green now on everything, which is a super positive sign, especially given how we were in the beginning to the middle of the week this week. All right, so let's jump over and take a look at the indexes. All right, we'll start off as we always do. Let's look at the NASDAQ on the daily. So zooming in here, like we said, started off the week kind of just a normal, boring day. We had that slight pullback ending out last week. We kind of had this little stalling action, which was pretty positive. Felt like we were just going to kind of maybe go a little sideways before we continued to go higher. But Tuesday, the opposite happened. Tuesday, we had a huge down day, down 1.46%, higher volume. And then on Wednesday was another big dip. You could see, though, intraday was a lot worse than it was to where we closed. So we had a really rough start, but then we were able to rally. Bull stepped in, brought us back up. So we did close below the 21, but it wasn't as brutal as it had felt in terms of the intraday action. A lot of this was, though, everybody was talking about Powell's speech. Powell's speech on Friday morning, concerns there. Anytime there's market uncertainty, you're going to see people kind of either step out of the market or possibly just see like trading and volume start to dry up. So this week, we saw that people kind of stepped out of the market, unsure as to what Powell was going to say on Friday. And like I said, broke the 10, broke the 21. And this is where it becomes like that pivotal moment. Where are we going to go from here? How are we going to interact with that 21 exponential right here? Are we going to start getting towards the 50? Are we going to continue to trend down lower? Or are we going to break higher and hopefully rebound, giving what is really just a slight pullback? And Friday, we got that answer. The minute Powell got on the mic speech, I didn't watch it personally because to me, I'm just worried about price action, but we rebounded. And like we said, we got back above 21 and back above the 10-day simple moving average. So super positive action, especially seeing the volume that poured in on Friday, that we pulled back and then bounced up. Really, like this, like we said, this felt real brutal. But one of the things, and this was mentioned by a guy, Swizz Trader, in the Discord channel, which shout out to him. This was a great observation. The pullback we had here was a lot deeper where we closed off the 21 than it was this week. So we were kind of saying like, all right, is this just going to be a pullback again, reset, wash some people out, and then we're going to continue higher? But we didn't know. So like I said, after Thursday, after we had that inside day, we bounced up higher. So super positive end to the week. Really, really kind of changed what we were thinking midweek as we had that strong finish to the week. Let's zoom out. We'll look at the weekly. Weekly look, we pulled right in. You can't really see my 40-week moving average. It's a little dark, but you can see on the red right here, this is our 10-week moving average. We pulled right into that intra-week and then bounced right up from there. Again, closed down slightly for the week, but still in the upper range. As you look, the trend is intact. There is nothing on when you zoom out, which is sometimes what you need to do to keep your kind of motions settled, is just take a look, and there's nothing here that's super concerning. If anything, this is actually pretty healthy to have that little pullback and then kind of bounce up from there. So let's talk about some of the key moving averages and key levels to keep an eye on. Look, on the upside, it's pretty simple. We're looking to get to all-time highs, right? We're looking at this August 13th day. If we can continue to rally, get up to past this area, that's going to be positive. If we start to see some resistance around here, that's where it starts to get more concerning. Kind of reminds me of going back towards the end of last year, beginning of this year, where it's like we had these pullbacks, and then every time we kind of looked like we were all right, just a pullback, we just kept hitting resistance. Excuse me. So this is something to kind of keep an eye on. Do we get that choppy action? Do we get where we're starting to like go sideways or look like we're creating a higher low and then just roll and break that down? So then on the downside, we always look at the 10-day. Obviously, ideally, we want to stay above that 10-day. But really, for me and my time frame of trading, it's the 21 EMA, keeping an eye on that. Can we maintain above that, especially given that we broke right back really quickly? So keep an eye on that 21 EMA. And then on the downside, other than that, we're looking at the low on August 20th, intraday low. If we can stay above that, create higher lows, that's a positive sign. If we continue to break down, then it's going back towards both the 50 and also the August 1st low. These two levels, the 51st and the August 1st low. So mark those up on your charts. Keep an eye on that. Look how the market interacts around those levels. That can tell you a lot about what we can expect. But for now, I think things are looking pretty positive, especially given how we were in the beginning of the week. We'll jump over the S&P, just take a quick look. I mean, to be completely honest, it's pretty much the identical action. Really not much else to say here. A little bit more strength. You can see how we were with the 21 EMA, a little more positive. And a lot of this is probably due to what everybody's been talking about, rotation. A lot of those growth stocks, small caps were kind of looking rough in the beginning of the week. And yeah, a lot of the other different rotation we saw, which we'll talk about when we go into industry groups, those groups are kind of holding up, which tend to be in the S&P. So yep, we'll look at the weekly quickly as well. You can see we didn't pull in nearly as close to that 10 week as we did on the NASDAQ. And just for fun, we'll look quickly at the Dow. And you can see Dow making all-time highs, looking stronger, again, playing to that rotation stuff. All right, so let's jump over. Let's take a look at Deepvue, and let's look at the theme tracker. So if you don't know, I am a Deepvue partner. This is the tool that I use for all my stock screening, and pretty much my entire trading is done through Deepvue. Really, really great, innovative tool. They're doing a ton to make this tool better and better every single week, constantly putting out new features and updates. So super stoked to be partnered with them. And if you are interested, right now there is a wait list. They are working to make this tool as robust as possible. So for themselves, they took a little bit of a break on bringing on new people. But if you're on YouTube, there's a link in the description. You can get on the waiting list. And if you are on X, I'll post that this week, or actually, no, I'll post that today so you can get on the waiting list with my link. All right, so looking at the themes, look, solar has been one that we've been constantly talking about. A couple of weeks back, we were talking about it kind of coming off the bottom. Is this really starting an uptrend? Look, right now, it's showing that this is starting an uptrend. So look at some of those ETFs. You can see some of those ETFs breaking out some basing patterns. Just look at a lot of the stocks on there. Make sure that you're not just chasing anything, but there are a lot of opportunities starting to present themselves in solar. Keep an eye on that. Other than that, home construction, this has been another group that we've been talking about week after week, showing a lot of strength. And now it is up at the top on the 1 month ranking. So positive action seen there. Not the strongest week, but still, given everything that went on, it definitely was in the upper half of performance. Oil and gas, that's another one that's popped up. That was a laggard. If you can see for year to date, really performing in the absolute worst, but now we're starting to see it populate here. And we're starting to see it start to climb up in the 1 month rank. So just keep an eye on that one, see if it continues to show some strength. And then, which most of you have, I know, seen within your screening routines, healthcare, biotech, medical, anything in that space is starting to show some strength. You can see healthcare in here, biotech in here. So keep an eye on that group too, as if we start to see there's a lot of strength week after week. That could be another area of opportunity. Not my cup of tea. Not a big fan of the biotechs just because of how news driven they could be, but still something to keep an eye on. Other than that, yeah, I guess that's really kind of it on the industry groups. Keep an eye on everything. Small caps definitely showed some strength towards the end of the week, so maybe we'll see that start to really outperform because the Russell had been lagging. But yeah, just keep an eye on this. Keep doing this every single day, looking at what's going on in the industry groups. That gives you a feel where the big money is putting their money. And if you can dive into those groups with the big money, you have a lot better chance of success. All right, so as we always do, let's talk exposure levels. When we broke the 21 EMA, I think a lot of us had a lot of stops triggered. I got stopped out of at a position in Hood for a while. I was doing very well. I had a trailing stop on the 21 EMA. We closed below. I got stopped out. Took a nice gain, but because of some of these stops occurring, did get some of my exposure reduced. But with the strength that we had on Friday, I started to put a little more exposure back into the market. So I think we're right back into a strong market. Nothing tells me that this uptrend right now is falling apart. And I think that 100% invested is completely fine if you're invested in the right names. And I think that's what's key. When we do have these pullbacks, and we do have these resets, you want to try your best as we're in this uptrend to get into those leaders. If those leaders are presenting opportunities to get good solid buy points, low risk entries, that's where you want to be focusing. You don't want to be just chasing things that are too extended throughout the market. You want to wait for these opportunities, wait for these pullbacks, see what holds up the most, what has the best relative strength in those pullbacks, and start pushing your money towards that. Also, like we were just talking about with that rotation, kind of focusing on where that rotation is going and what strongest industry groups are performing in that trend. So keep an eye on that. And yeah, that's, I think, just the type of market we are. Now, again, things could change. We're not in the market of predicting. We're in the game, not in the game of predicting. We're in the game of seeing what the market is telling us now, positioning ourselves with that in mind, and then adjusting sometimes day to day, sometimes intraday. Based on what the market's telling us. So keep that in mind, have a plan for all different directions. This market this week, it made a really, really clear example of why you need to have a plan for every single direction, because anything can happen. As you saw in the beginning of the week, we were really, really rough, and then we finished out the week really, really strong. If you weren't prepared for the downside, you could have got caught flat-footed. And same thing, if you weren't prepared for a big, strong Friday, you may have caught flat-footed and saw some things break out that you weren't prepared for. So keep that all in mind as we go into next week, take the time to prepare yourself. All right, let's get into some stocks. Let's jump over to Deepvue. All right. First one we're going to talk about, shout out to Kobe over on Discord. We're going to pull up Reddit. And Vince, I see you got a name up there too. I won't forget about you as well. All right, so Reddit. This name has been hot, hot, hot. We are looking at it right now on a daily, but let's jump over on the weekly. All right, so on the weekly, oops. There we go. All right, now we're on red. So we had this big correction. Things kind of went sideways. We came in up, went sideways again. Earnings came out. And this thing just went on an absolute tear from these bottoms. Just big, big run up. And a lot of us wanted to be in this, but it was just high risk entry with the going up on the right hand side. So now when we come over to it on the daily, it felt like this was just never going to pause. We were hoping that it was got to these all-time highs, it would pause, and it didn't, kept going. But then we got this pullback into the 21. For swing traders, there might be an opportunity to look in over here. I'm still getting more comfortable with my swing trading skills. But what I think here is maybe we watch this go a little sideways, form a base. So for me, this is definitely a high watch list one. Keep an eye on it. See if I can get a good entry. But I'm not just jumping in at any kind of point without a real good, like high risk, low risk, high reward type of entry. Maybe we wedge a little bit further down. You draw like a downtrending line, and we kind of get like a pocket pivot type of reaction over here. But yeah, high on my watch list. So really like this name longer term, but need to find the right point to enter on this one. All right. Anton over on YouTube. AS. I actually have this one because I do own this. Full disclosure, I do own this. This is a name I've been watching for a long time. We had this huge move, up almost 85, 90% over in here, coming off of the market lows. And then we just kind of went sideways. This basically traded, even if we account for this dip right here, we were really within like a 10% range, but we went down to like almost just under a 13% sideways consolidation phase right here. And I was just watching this one like a hawk. This gives you a good example of when earnings came out. It looked like this might have been toast, like just rolled over, not toast the stock, rolled over. The moving averages, though, were super, super tight, and this kind of rebounded right through here. And then with that strong day on Friday, this broke out to all-time highs. So I took a position. I was kind of watching this intraday, seeing how it interacted at these all-time highs. Were we going to hold above that area? Were we going to roll over again? Excuse me. So I was a little more patient, but once I saw that we were kind of had a nice intraday setup inside here, it looked like we were showing strength and bouncing through here, I took a position, and then it continued to go higher. So this one definitely, the problem I think right now is if you're not in this, it does feel like you're going to be a little extended, right? We went up 11.62%. So if you're buying up here, I think this thing could, even if it just returns to that pivot point, if you want to do some sort of stop there maybe, but even if it just goes down towards anything in the lows, like you're looking to those moving averages, almost a 10% move. So something to take into consideration depending on your trading style. For me now, this is extended. Wouldn't be looking to enter this where it is right now. But if you're in it, I think this thing looks super, super strong. I've been watching this for a long time, for months, and it was good to kind of like finally see this one break out. So shout out Anton. All right, let's go over. We got another one over on Discord. If you guys do want to join the Discord, link is in the YouTube description, and just shoot me a message on X. I'll get you the invite. It's 100% free. GEV, this is another really, really highly talked about strong performer coming off the market lows, just going on an absolute tear from market lows to, from market lows to peak. If I can get this to, there we go, clicking all over the place. There we go. Yeah, this thing went on 167% run. So super, super powerful run. Everybody was talking about this name. Uh, where we're at right now, looking for hopefully some sort of base to form. We know that stocks don't just go up like rockets. They are going to kind of pull back. They are going to consolidate, and they will give alternative entries. So seeing how this has kind of gone up on a run, really rode that 21 EMA. Now it's broken down, coming towards the 50. Hopefully this will kind of like bottom out, give us maybe some sort of a cup type of pattern. So keep an eye on this one. It's definitely been a leader within the market, but again, trying not to catch that falling knife. For you, some swing traders, there may be opportunities to enter in here. Again, not my forte. Still kind of getting comfortable with the swing trading as I'm starting to transition a little bit. But yeah, for me, this needs a little bit of time, but definitely high on the watch list. Very similar to Reddit. All right. Vince over on X. What do we got? SNDK. SanDisk. All right, let's start off on the weekly. I'm going to jump my data panel over here on the weekly. Oh, and I can't move SNDK. All right. All right, so for me on this one, look, it's just, this is kind of in a downtrend. You can see Deepvue has these Weinstein stages, which I think is super useful just to kind of give a quick assessment. But this one is pretty clearly still in a downtrend. There's a lot of overhead resistance. For me personally, I don't like getting into these names when they're just this deep and coming off lows. There is a pattern kind of forming here. So I will say that, right? We do have this kind of consolidation phase right here with your highs, your lows. You might want to call this like a kind of sloppy handle in here. Let me just see depth wise. Yeah, so pretty mild 20% correction. We've gone up, so we do have, in terms of CANSLIM, that prior uptrend over here. Again, you got your base pattern. You have your handle, 10% handle. A little bit of a volume spike over here, but that not the worst because we kind of broke those moving averages, then rebounded, closed above it. So on this one, personally, I just don't like the amount of possible overhead supply that we could have in this one. However, if you just want to trade out of this pattern, I can see that. To me, the big concern here is just the downtrend that we're in right here. That's the big concern. The relative strength is low. And I always ask myself, yeah, this may be a setup. This may be tradable. But ask yourself, is this the best stock? Is this the leader? Is this where I want to put my money, my limited amount of capital in this next uptrend? Do I think this is going to be a leader in the market? For me, this is just kind of a pass, but I see what you're looking at within this pattern, but that's just my kind of 2 cents, Vince. All right. Let's see. We also got on X, AMTM. AMTM. All right. Momentum Holdings. All right. So from a fundamental standpoint, not really liking just the earnings and sales side of things. ROE is pretty low. One of the lower performing groups. The funds have been kind of just not that great. We were peaked at 746 number of funds in this, and it's kind of just been lackluster, lower than that since then. Relative strength's pretty low. And for just quick reference, you can just look at the fundamentals over here. So not really what I like to see in terms of fundamentals. In terms of chart, we'll jump over to the weekly quick. This is a earlier IPO, smaller cap stock. It's coming up the right-hand side. Look, for me, this is just one where I gotta, I like to see some fundamentals a little bit better on the fundamental side before I start to jump into a stock. What does this company do? Engineering Technology Solutions, U.S. allied government, supporting programs across across energy environments. Yeah, all right. So just smaller cap stock, a lot of overhead supply over here. It has been uptrending. If you are going to look at this, I would kind of just keep an eye on some sort of base pattern forming. But yeah, this one's just a pass for me on a couple different levels. All right, let's jump over to Kobe. Also wanted to look at Palantir, another name everybody's talking about, another big leader in this market, hot stock. This thing has gone on an absolute tear. I have not been able to capitalize on this move, which is very disappointing, but is what it is. Can't catch every single one. But look, we could be getting a nice base pattern beginning to form. We have rolled over. We have intraday broke the 50-day simple moving average, and now it looks like we're finding support there. So another one of those leading stocks that I just want to keep a good eye on and really, really watch. Can we get a nice base pattern form? And then can we enter there? So no really buy points that I can see as of right now. I would like to see, maybe a couple of weeks of some consolidation before we start getting towards those all-time highs. That's kind of really what I would like to see, but market doesn't always give you what you want. So keep an eye on this one, but no real entry point for me right now. Anton said, what is my pick for the home construction sector? So I was able to jump in. This is just the construction sector in general. I took a position in road, which is just going, not just home construction, just construction sector in general. So I had bought this last week, somewhere in here as it kind of bounced and more of like a swing trade type of entry. It's kind of made a pretty nice move. We broke into this kind of consolidation area, broke higher, continued to go higher. This pullback, volume's been pouring in. So this is one of those construction sectors. In terms of the home construction sector, there's nothing really that's screaming at me right now. I know I've seen, I forgot the ticker name. Toll Brothers, I know is a name that in the construction sector a lot of people have talked about. If you can't find something in particular, though, what I always say is look at the ETFs, see if there's a way that you can get in on those ETFs and ride what is an industry trend there. But there's nothing really for me personally that's been jumping out that's screaming that I should be buying this as the leader within the home construction. So keep that in mind. All right, let's go through a couple more names. We got App. This is one I wanted to mention. This was a beautiful VCP pattern. Really, really strong fundamentals on this stock. Great earnings, great sales, strong institutional sponsorship. As you see, a ton of fund growth, crazy ROE. Industry group, not the strongest. The application space, this has been one of those, software has been lagging a little bit. But relative strength on a 12-month has been strong. On a 3-month is starting to show up better. And then we just got that textbook Minervini VCP type of pattern, right? We have this big correction here. We come back up. We correct again. We come back up. And then we correct again, really kind of floating around that 21 EMA. I took kind of like an early entry as we reclaimed the 10-day simple moving average, put a really small starter position on. And then ideally, if we can break out of this VCP type of pattern, going to above this point, I'll put my full position on. But this is a name. Look, again, sometimes these stocks don't come back, right? When you go on a run like this, they don't normally come back and present another opportunity when you have these big consolidations. But App 11 is showing something different with this textbook VCP pattern. So if we can break out of this, I think this is a great setup. With that being said, again, I do own a small position. I do also plan on putting that in. So just full disclosure there. But yeah, I like this setup, keeping an eye on this. SE, Brian over on YouTube. All right, let's take a look at SE. I apologize because I have so many markups from the past. I never deleted off here. All right, let's try to zoom in on this. SE kind of extended from here. Look, this is another name that everybody's talking about. Everybody's watching. Strong fundamentals. This one on a big run from the bottoms of the beginning of this uptrend of the market. Then we've kind of looked like we were getting, I guess you would call this like a double bottom breakout over here. You could have ventured. And then now it's kind of just going on. So yeah, this is kind of extended for me. Not jumping in this one anytime soon. Extended, already broke out. I would say this was the 812 was really the breakout day. You can go from this double bottom that was broken out. You can go from this high, it broke out. You basically came into all-time highs. That was like that big gap up on earnings just completely took that out. So if you have a way to play earnings gaps, that would have been the day to enter this one. Now it's kind of extended. Yeah, even from a swing trade perspective, if you wanted to look maybe at some sort of a flag, again, this isn't really my forte, and say maybe breaking out of this flag pattern, I could see something like that. But if you didn't get in really on Friday, I think this one is gone and left without you. But that's just, again, my perspective. All right. What else do we got? Get through a couple more of these, and then we'll wrap things up for everybody. It's been one of the longer ones. This one, shout out to Discord, is a name that I am. Camco. Really, really great fundamentals. You can see the earnings super, super strong on this. Go on the annual over here. Annual overall strong. Last year wasn't the best. On the daily, sorry, not on the daily. On the quarterly, really strong fundamentals. You can see the last 3 quarters, 167.22% increase on the last 3 quarters average. Sales strong, 37.09. Good ROE. We're seeing funds pouring into this. We're seeing good relative strength on the 12-month. Yeah, overall, this one looks pretty strong. This is a name that I'm definitely watching, and really for this kind of double bottom pattern. So let's grab this paintbrush here. All right, so we kind of have this, we have this, and right here, right at these highs, if I can grab it right. I don't have my magnet on. Hold on. Oh man, sorry, messing up right here. There you go. Okay, so what's that? 68.96 is really kind of the area that I'm keeping an eye on. Just that classic double bottom breakout. Even better if we can get some tightness right around that area to give us maybe a little handle, more of like a VCP type of setup where we get a little tight contraction over here and then hopefully break out high. This is high, another one high on my watch list. So if you're noticing one thing, there are a lot of names that have corrected, that are staying on that longer term watch list that I know I'm not going to be entering this week, but I definitely am keeping an eye on. This is one of those that is extremely high on that list. This is one of those names in those rare earth metals, uranium specifically. They're the leader in it. So yeah, if we're going to go into nuclear energy, this is one of those names that I think could be a big mover long term. So keeping an eye on this. Until it breaks out, though, it's just a watch. What's up? Yo, what's up, Chad? Over on Discord, appreciate you joining. What about RSI? Rush Interactive. So this was actually on my spotlight list for the week. I was looking at a break from this kind of area right here, right? We had this kind of gap up here on earnings, kind of move sideways, starting to see some tightness, starting to see the volume really dry up. And then we saw Thursday, the pop, Friday, the breakout. So Friday, the breakout, if you're in it now, I think this is a good setup. Or I think this was a good breakout is what I really should say, but extended as of moving forward. But yeah, this was one of those names on my watch list. This is in that gambling space, right? Yeah, we had actually talked about this on Discord. So, yeah, definitely a good breakout if you got in on this. I did not, chose not to, took some other different positions. Can't buy everything. But yeah, this was on my watch list, so I like this name. Good call. Energy Fuel is also promising. Yep. Was stopped out of CCJ this week. Yeah, it's part of the game, unfortunately, right? You're going to get stopped out of some things, but just, big picture, keep an eye on it. Yeah, if you had this in some sort of a buy that you had in here, good chance you probably sold, because probably sold somewhere around here, maybe even somewhere if you really were longer term following, maybe the 50-day, you sold out in here. But don't get emotional with stocks, all right? If this creates a good opportunity, there's no reason not to buy it just because you personally took a little, took a stop, got stopped out of it. And maybe you bought down here and you're like, oh, I'm not buying it all the way up here. Look, this is going to break out and this is going to go on another big run. All that matters is where your capital is, right? And if you're making money off it. So don't get emotional. Don't get, vengeance against these stocks. Like, I'm not buying it because I already bought it and then I got stopped out. All right. Uber. It's another name. So this one, I've been watching this one for a very long time. This was getting mixed up in a lot of the Tesla stuff. Tesla talks robo-taxis. Uber was getting hit. Tesla has something bad come out about robo-taxis. Uber was jumping. It was just like, it was very news-driven for a while. What I see now, though, is we got this kind of cup consolidation, right? If we look at things on the weekly, we've kind of trended up, pattern. Then we almost got like a base on base. And now we have this pattern forming right here. So, look, if we can get a little handle, that'd be best case scenario. If we can't, then it's really just a breakout to all-time highs over there. Moving averages all converging. Now they're starting to spread as we start to go up on the right-hand side. Like I said, strong fundamentals. We know the name. This has the N in CANSLIM. This is the leader as of right now in terms of ride sharing. And also playing in the home food delivery app as well, too, competing with Dash. So, all right. Whew. A lot of different names. I hope we didn't lose Twitter. We might have lost Twitter. All right. Man, that sucks. All right, at least you guys got you guys on YouTube. We did lose Twitter, so I'm going to have to share this one for those guys. Glad we still have you guys up here. But, all right. That is basically all we have on the stock side of things. So let's finish this up, right? Final thoughts. This is why you can't predict what's going to go on the market. The market was very, very whipsawy. We had a horrible start to the week, super strong finish to the week. Can't get emotional. Can't just have like where they're on those intraday time frames, you get all caught up in all the chaos. You have to have a plan for all directions. Just stick to your plan, remove emotions. And a big thing, again, never stop screening. Always be looking for stocks. I don't care what type of market environment we are in. There's always an opportunity to find some sort of relative strength, to find some sort of potential leader for the future. And you have to be prepared because you never know when those stocks are going to be breaking out. So keep doing that work when the market is closed. I said it before. I would love to coin this phrase, OMDs, don't make open market decisions. Open market decisions, no OMDs, right? You don't want to be just making on-the-fly plans, making emotional trades, whether it's a sell or a buy, because those are going to be prone to having some faults in them because you're making those decisions emotionally. Big money, those big institutions, they love that emotional trading. They love people that are going to sit there, watch every little tick up and down. They push the market through those key levels, and then they buy it up right as it breaks through that 21 EMA like we saw this week. They're creating those emotions. They're getting people scared. They're getting people nervous. They're getting people, even on the upside, they're getting people overexcited, like they have to buy. This market's going to run on without them. And then they're capitalizing on people trading on those emotions. So don't make open market decisions. No OMDs. All right. Other than that, that's all we got. As always, appreciate everybody joining. If you're on X, well, you're watching the replay because you guys got cut off on the live stream. But there's the YouTube channel if you prefer to watch there because that seems to be holding up a little bit better. If you're on YouTube and don't follow me on X, there is my X account. Link in the description on YouTube. If you're not in Discord, huge shout out to everybody in Discord that joined this. Always some great conversations. We have over 1,000 people and it's free. So check that out. Other than that, email if you want to reach out via email. That's all we got. It's the end of this week. A little longer. Went over a lot of different stocks. Hopefully this was helpful for everybody. And catch everybody next week.